Public speaking isn't my thing either, so I decided not to wing it and opted for prepared remarks instead, sorry, which I'll hopefully be able to make it through without chopping too many items. As we were putting the celebration of life together, Jackie asked us to give her some words, adjectives to describe my dad from our point of view. I cautiously suggested a term I'd often come across in books but didn't quite grasp myself. A hail fellow well met. It's a mouthful, so we looked it up. Hail fellow well met. Showing excessive familiarity. Harold was accustomed to a hail fellow well met salesman. I thought this was perfect for my dad. Also, hail fellow well met. A spiritedly sociable person, jolly companion. So now I'm not as intimidated by this phrase. While it's still a mouthful, it nails it for me. It describes Dad to a T. As you know, as a son growing up, our Herbie presented some verbal challenges. Why? Because folks thought it was strange that I sometimes called him Herb. And please, don't call him Mr. Lindbergh either. He was Herbie, like Herbie the love bug. Or Herbie goes bananas. Or my personal favorite, Mr. Herb. Or who could forget Coach Herb? Yes, he was the coach. Coach Herbie to several of us. He coached soccer, Little League baseball. Being his oldest son gave me no advantages. He was always fair, I guess. I mostly rode the bench while my brother Greg was always a starter. It didn't seem fair to me then, but hey, I got over it. Sticking to the name game, since my middle name is Herbert too, I once tried to call him by his real name, Clarence. And I'm here to tell you, that really didn't go over very well. So I just stuck with Herb. That is, if I didn't want to get my head taken off. So some of my favorite Herbisms from over time. She's built like a bud. He's a little on the gay side. And about the smoke. I'll pay $5,000 out the door. Not a penny more. Or the time when we were on a family vacation in Washington, D.C. and he approached the underage daughter of a friend and just blurted out, liquor? To this day, we still aren't quite sure what he was trying to ask, but it's likely he was asking if she knew where there was a liquor store nearby. And as I'm sure everyone knows, he loved his gin martini. But all kidding aside, my most heartfelt memories of my dad are how patient he was with me. Like the time I took all Dad's Army gear, Yellow Cab Company mementos, and destroyed them while playing as a child. He never held it against me. I mean, he had tents, canteens, shovels, web belts, dress hats, all of which I managed to destroy. I mean, how the hell do you destroy an aluminum can? Somehow I managed to, and he never scolded me. He would just shrug his shoulder and said, there he goes again. On the other hand, I would never allow this for my kids, which made me very sad. There was a time when I was 14 and Dad let me drive at 5:30 a.m. while he threw out the papers on my mom's estate paper. Apologies to anyone who may have woken up to broken windows or any other damage that might have occurred on that paper route. I swear it wasn't me. Let's just face it, in general, Dad wasn't a great storyteller, but he did have one tall tale only he could tell. Who could forget the one he told most holidays about how he and his friends built a dummy. As the story went, they made the dummy look like a hobo holding a bottle. They would then lay in wait above a blind curve above Twin Peaks while couples on Glover's Lane slammed into and over said dummy, causing a loud racket, glass smashing, etc. Often the driver would quickly drive off, one time apparently in tears. Then there was the time they tried to throw a dummy off the cliffs at Diamond Heights Quarry. Their first attempt bombed because they neglected to weigh the dummy down and it just floated down to the flood park. He loved his job with the 3 A's, AAA. I can still remember his spiel when he called his nightly insurance renewals. Many of his work colleagues became lifelong friends. Same goes for bridge and later golf. He was so competitive, but always a good sport and made friends whenever he came. Same goes for his peeps at Sandrock, Shadow Mountain, and Crystal Springs. That winning personality also made him an ideal parent leader in the Indian this was another place where he made lifelong friends of the other parents and even some of us kids. After Indian Guides, he supported my continuing at Boy Scouts and supported me in the quest to attain the rank of Eagle Scout. Later in life, I discovered that my dad and I had so much more in common. He became an avid reader, especially around the pool down at San Juan. So much so that I got him a Kindle. We'd often compare what we were reading, and I'd make recommendations, especially about California history and politics. In later life, we bonded over SF history. To him, San Francisco was more than an idea. It was more than a place. It was a fantastic idea. I'm not saying that he reveled in the cultures of 5 continents, but he appreciated the opportunities it offered, especially for sports, the outdoors, and most especially the restaurants. He also liked to boast that he voted for Nixon 6 times. I'm still trying to figure out how that's I have often heard how meaningful it is to be of service and be present for parents' final days. I can personally say that I'm grateful that I had the ability to spend 2 months with him earlier this year. We were able to enjoy a few more nice meals together, like pancakes most Sundays, and my everything left in the fridge super protein smoothies. Friends and neighbors were able to visit and say some final goodbyes. I took him to a few treatments, met with his doctors, and he called a family meeting about ending his treatments and started hospice. He felt he couldn't continue to take endless transfusions when blood would be needed by others. In addition to being pragmatic about his prognosis, it was a very thoughtful gesture. The staff at Mission Hospice were excellent caregivers, and we were blown away by the meals delivered and the wonderful cards and flowers many of you sent. On behalf of my family and community, throughout this process, when I have thoughts of grief, loss, and mortality, I'm reminded of the quote from Hamlet we were forced to learn in high school. Thou knowst 'tis common, all that lives must die, passing through nature to eternity. Sometimes when growing up, we take it for granted that our parents will always be there. That said, it is always difficult to say goodbye. Even in his final days, Dad still brought a laugh to the room before he brought a tear.